Welcome to the Easier Way to Sell presentation of Close the Deal Without Selling. Here's your host and developer of the Easier Way to Sell, Ike Krieger.
Hey, this is Ike Krieger. Welcome back. The beauty of this medium is that it allows us to get together timelessly for this conversation. You may be listening to this on the day of its release in 2020, or it may be the year 2120 and you're a salesperson searching for an easier way to sell. And like with most commitments, at some point, you're going to have to make some adjustments for reality. At the time of this recording, the entire world is experiencing an upheaval that has few, if any, parallels. The coronavirus pandemic is conducting a deadly campaign around the world, and commerce has ground to a halt. How you deal with the unexpected and the unwanted will most likely determine your success in any setting. So, what are you doing now to prepare for the restart of the cold engine of your business? What mindset will be necessary to survive the knockdown punch to your economy? What mindset will you have towards selling when this chaos fades? More importantly is how you empathize and respond to the mindset of your consumer and specifically your prospects when this thing is over. No one is going to want to be sold to. How are you going to communicate with these prospects most effectively? How do you make the most out of the hand you've been dealt? Now, if you're spending a portion of your available time on personal development and personal growth, that's always time well spent. Learning a new skill is personal development. And if you're in sales, learning the easier way to sell would certainly be classified as personal development. Personal growth will come in your ability to take on new tasks and complete them. But with everything going on in your life, how can you approach personal development in a powerful way? Well, that's what this episode is all about. We'll explore the mindset and the personal characteristics that go hand in hand with success in any situation. The educational system of my youth and my father's youth drilled us both on the importance of the 3 R's. And the 3 R's were, of course, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And the 3 R's were thought to be important enough in our daily lives to warrant our deliberate and continuous focus. And you can just think about school, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And when we look back, we can view the results of those who took the focus seriously and those who did not. And having reading, writing, and arithmetic packaged as the 3 R's helped us remember the most important components of our early education. I began a search for a comparable, simple, and elegant packaging to maintain focus on productivity and successful project completion. What I first came up with was the concept of the 3 C's, which has now evolved into the 7 C's. I've chosen 7 words that start with the letter C that may help you do what you need to do in order to achieve the success you say you want. The search for these 7 words began after reading a book called The Art of Closing Any Deal by James W. Pickens, and this book focuses on the old-fashioned traditional approach to closing the deal, and in my opinion, this book is a masterpiece, because contained in this book are some names of closing techniques that even I had never heard of. For instance, the sharp angle close or the 3 devil close. But on page 32, Pickens says, if you take the letter C out of the word closer, you have the word loser. Well, that made C stand out for me, and the C in our conversation stands for the words confidence, control, compassion, and courage, and to that list I've added commitment, character, and communication, and those are the 7 C's of success. Although all 7 are significant components in your success equation, I've ranked them and I've given them an order of what I believe to be relative importance, and number 1 is courage. Number 2, character. 3, commitment. 4, confidence. 5, control. 6, compassion. And 7, communication. I've based these rankings on the fact that you might slip by without a few of these characteristics, but not the first 3. I believe that it's hard to live the life you say you want to live without courage, character, and commitment. Without the first 3, I believe you're doomed to live your life mostly by luck alone. And though many have heard me say there's no sin in being lucky, you can't depend on it. Luck is a fickle ally. Let's begin with courage. Aristotle said that courage is the first of human qualities because it's the quality that guarantees the others. For this conversation, let's define courage as action in the face of fear. And I'd like to remind you that that's different than action without fear. So it takes courage to ask for a no when that's really something you'd prefer not to hear. It takes courage to leave your presentation kit in the car. It takes courage more than most people would imagine to listen rather than talk. It takes courage to disqualify an uncommitted prospect rather than to nurse them into becoming a problem client. And there are many instances where the concept of courage must literally force itself into your daily routines and activities. In some cases, the only thing standing between success and failure is something as simple as picking up the phone and making your calls. For some, this task is more frightening than being asked to go into battle. Some years ago, I was having a conversation with a group of stockbrokers who were transitioning to the easier way to sell in their office. Cold calling is the life's blood of stockbrokers, especially early in their career, and not everyone takes to cold calling like a duck takes to water. You see, fear of cold calling is universal. Summoning up cold call courage on a daily basis is a challenge for a majority of salespeople, and that might include you. After all, you have to speak to a stranger, and you might get rejected. Taking action and making cold calls in the face of your fear is what courage is all about. One of the brokers at the meeting shared that he must be the most courageous of all since he made dozens of calls a day and felt little, if any, fear. And I reminded him that action without fear does not equate to courage. He was just one of the fortunate few who was well suited for cold calling. For the rest, those who feel fear, cold calling takes courage. Here are some examples of action in the face of fear. I distinctly remember one of my motivational rallying the troops speeches of years gone by, and the basis for that speech was a PBS broadcast on warfare. I want you to think back to a time when battles were fought by groups of armed troops standing in a line, marching towards an enemy who had their rifles and cannons pointed at their opponents. That took courage. A timelier demonstration of courage was evident in the actions of the medical teams during the vicious onslaught of the coronavirus pandemic in the 2020s. These brave men and women marched into battle against an invisible enemy in the face of peril to themselves and their families. As a matter of fact, their actions demonstrate the 3 C's better than anything else in contemporary history. These medical professionals showed courage, character, and commitment. Walking towards people shooting at you is hard. That takes courage. Treating people suffering from the plague, that's hard. That takes courage. Believe me, they felt fear, yet there was something important enough to keep them going in the face of life-threatening circumstances. When it comes to your business and its related tasks, if you feel fear, it must be an important task or you wouldn't care. Fear is a wonderful and powerful tool designed by your Creator to protect you in times of danger. Fear is normal. Fear is a normal response. However, sometimes fear isn't exactly what you're experiencing. It also takes courage to move out of your comfort zone. Comfort could actually be the 8th word on our list because most of us will do anything if we feel that that action is going to be comfortable and natural. How many new activities have you left incomplete because it wasn't comfortable to learn? Most people feel they're qualified to be successful doing that which comes comfortably and naturally, and if that were true, everyone would be successful, and you know that's not the case. Studies show that fewer than 5% of any population in any given endeavor is successful doing what comes comfortably and naturally. The feeling of uncomfortability as you make a conscious effort to try something new is the price you pay for personal growth. If you sell for a living and suddenly you're told to stop using traditional sales techniques, that would probably be uncomfortable. So the easier way to sell will force you to be uncomfortable, but only for a little while. You'll feel uncomfortable when you stop giving traditional sales presentations because the concept of going through an appointment without giving a presentation, that's probably a scary proposition. You rely on your presentation to sell. You're intent on giving that information to your prospect to prove that 1, you really know your business, and 2, you're really worthy of their business. The adrenaline rush that accompanies the sales process lubricates your unconscious tendency to talk. You reach into your mental data bank and retrieve what can only be called your ammunition, which you fire point blank at your potential customer. You're prone to give out information that you believe the prospect needs to know, but you usually give this information from your point of view or your company's point of view. I'm continually coaching my students to give prospects only information that the prospect needs to know from the prospect's point of view. And here again, it takes courage to give up much of what you've been taught and what you've been doing naturally for most of your lives, which is show and tell. Okay, let's go to the second C on our list, and that word is character. There are 2 things that I think about when I hear the word character, and of course, the first one is a joke. There's this guy sitting at his desk when the boss comes up and says, "Hey, Joe, why aren't you working?" And Joe replies, "Well, boss, I didn't see you coming." You may be wondering what that bit of humor has to do with character, but I'd like you to look at it this way. Character is the ability to carry on when no one is watching. Character is telling the truth just because. Character is completing your assignment on time. Character is doing what you said you were going to do because it's what you said you were going to do. Your character is your word. Learning a new skill is a choice you make. It's also a form of a promise to yourself, and view the act of giving yourself your word as binding as if you had given it to someone else. And there's a term that describes your ability to follow through on a promise, which brings us to the third and last of the 7 C's we'll cover in this segment, and that's commitment. You can intend to do something without commitment, but it's more productive to commit with intention. And intentionality is to commitment as commitment is to intentionality. For either to be successful, both have to be present. Now, I went through this exercise a bunch of episodes ago, but I'd like to go over it again because it really fits into what we're discussing. So you're in a training session and you ask for a participant and you tell the participant that I'm going to ask you to go and touch, and I want you to choose an object like the wall or a specific chair. So I'm going to go ask you to touch the wall, and I want you to do it because you're willing to take on that assignment. Is that something you're willing to do, participant? And you wait for their answer and they'll say, sure. And your response is, what I understand is that you have accepted my request to go touch the wall, and your intention when the time is right is to go touch the wall. Is that accurate? And the participant will say, yes. Then you ask, can you think of anything that would stand in your way of going and touching the wall, barring a natural disaster of some sort? And once again, the participant will say no. So, just to be clear, you're committing to touching the wall. And they'll say yes, and you say, okay, great. At which point you tell them, all right, go touch the wall. You wait for their first step and immediately add, stop for a second. There's something else I need to tell you. If they continue and touch the wall, acknowledge them for following through on their intention. If they stop and fail to touch the wall, you ask, you committed to touch the wall, yet you didn't. What stopped you? The participant failed at their intention when you said, stop for a second. So what happened to your participant's intention that would only be stopped by a natural disaster? Humans get sidetracked. That's what this exercise is about. It may seem like an I got you, but it's not. You have the greatest of intentions and life gets in the way. Commitment and intentionality may be the most valuable business habit you can develop. Creating and setting goals must be accompanied by commitment and intentionality. As the late great comedian George Carlin said, you gotta wanna. Learning this program calls for commitment and intentionality. In other words, you gotta wanna. So, how do your 3 C's stack up? My good friend for nearly 25 years, Lisa Gardner-Shaunamaloo, will be our guest on the next episode. And I know you'll enjoy my conversation with Lisa, and the reason that I bring it up now is one of the questions I asked her was what book she would recommend for you. I wanted this book to be influential in your ability to be enrolling and assist on your journey to enlightenment. And remember, when I say enlightenment, I'm referring to your ability as a living being to lighten up. Back to Lisa. When she mentioned the name of her favorite book, I couldn't help but interrupt her because that exact book was sitting within inches of me here in my office. And the title of this book is Conversations with God, Book 1. Now, you've seen a reference to this book and to its author, Neale Donald Walsch, in your action guide. Ever since I came upon this book, I found it to be one of the most moving and inspiring bits of literature I've ever read, and I'm recommending it to you. I've found over the years that this powerful piece of writing is special in that it affords the reader the luxury to open the book to any page and have confidence that you'll discover something well worth reading. There are challenging things going on in the world, and if you're human, there are probably challenging things going on in your life. So I'm going to share a passage from the book that's helped me with my most pressing life choices. So I'm going to read to you a passage that begins on page 36 of the book Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. There's an advanced level of thinking, and it is one which all masters reach sooner or later. For it is only when they can accept responsibility for all of it that they can achieve the power to change part of it. So long as you entertain the notion that there is something or someone else out there doing it to you, you disempower yourself to do anything about it. Only when you say, I did this, can you find the power to change it. It is much easier to change what you are doing than to change what another is doing. The first step in changing anything is to know and accept that you have chosen it to be what it is. If you can't accept this on a personal level, agree to it through your understanding that we are all one. Seek then to create change not because a thing is wrong, but because it no longer makes an accurate statement of who you are. There is only one reason to undo anything, because it is no longer a statement of who you want to be. It does not reflect you. It does not represent you. That is, it does not represent you. If you wish to be accurately represented, you must work to change anything in your life which is not fit into the picture of you that you wish to protect into eternity. In the large sense, all the bad things that can happen are of your choosing. The mistake is not in choosing them, but in calling them bad. For in calling them bad, you call yourself bad since you created them. This label you cannot accept, so rather than label yourself as bad, you disown your own creations. It is this intellectual and spiritual dishonesty which allows you to accept the world in which conditions are as they are. If you had to accept or even felt in a deeper inner sense of personal responsibility for the world, it would be a far different place. This would certainly be true if everyone felt responsible. That this is so patently obvious is what makes it so utterly painful and so poignantly ironic. The world's natural calamities and disasters, its tornadoes and hurricanes, volcanoes and floods, its physical turmoils, are not created by you specifically. What is created by you is the degree to which these events touch your life. Events occur in the universe which no stretch of the imagination could claim you instigated or created. These events are created by the combined consciousness of man. All of the world co-creating together produces these experiences. What each of you do individually is move through them deciding what, if anything, they mean to you and who and what you are in relationship to them. Thus, you create collectively and individually the life and times you are experiencing for the sole purpose of evolving. You ask if there is a less painful way to undergo this process, and the answer is yes, yet nothing in your outward experience will have changed. The way to reduce the pain which you associate with earthly experiences and events, both yours and those of others, is to change the way you behold them. You cannot change the outer event, for that has been created by the lot of you, and you are not grown enough in your consciousness to alter individually that which has been created collectively. So you must change the inner experience. This is the road to mastery in living. Nothing is painful in and of itself. Pain is a result of wrong thought. It is an error in thinking. A master can disappear the most grievous pain. In this way, the master heals. Well, that'll do it for this episode. A lot to think about in those words, I know. Your takeaway from this episode should be the power of courage, character, and commitment. This is Ike Krieger. See you next time.